And continuing on with the having fun as much as possible part, this is actually a representation of what I felt like visiting the Alps. I suppose you can see that, right? And one way in particular, which I still think is, nice for me to look at, is that there are bits here which I did with a palette knife, which I suppose, I'm not even sure that's the right word, like here for example, you get a kind of a crumbly dry texture in the paint going over the dark under surface here. If you do that with a brush, it just becomes much more uniform and like silky like looking. And if you do it with a knife, it gets this crumbly texture. Let me see whether I can get that a bit closer in. See how crumbly that is? Now, for me, that was like a new phase where I could work freer and feel less that it had to be perfect in one way or another, or that it had to conform to a particular type of substance. I still worked quite hard, and I'm still rather pleased myself with, this type of surface right here and her shoulder and all that. Considering that I never had any proper training, I'm quite happy with that. So that's number one. And number two is behind this one, and it's, as you can see already, a lot more convoluted and getting complicated, and trying to, I think I'm getting myself into trouble here. What I'm trying to do is basically, I had this image that fell into my head of walking somewhere along a path, and there is this old woman sitting beside the fire, beside the road, and she smiles at me and sticks her hands into the fire, into the glowing coals, and pulls out this little infant and gives it to me. That's the image that fell into my head, just like that. I wasn't thinking this up. I wasn't imagining anything. I probably had my mind on my dinner. So then what I did was I tried to, make a story out of it, where those two, the old woman, the child, and or the adult woman are there. And somehow there's a bit of the atmosphere of the original feeling or sensation of the place with, the trees and this type of, bit heather-like wild open space, natural surroundings. I tended to try to express that, okay? Yeah, sorry for the windy sentence, but that's just how it comes out right now. The horse was never there. I just saw a horse by a field scraping with his teeth over his front leg, and I thought that was kind of a cool posture. And I needed somebody to sit there in that side of the picture, because otherwise it would have been lopsided, right? Everybody was on the left side of the middle, and the woman at the top. I suppose composition kind of does itself. It's always possible to stick in another figure of some sort, and then that would be some sort of a nature spirit, and branches and leaves, and I still tend to think that this is the nice bit, of this type of painting. It's just all the squiggly. I was just having fun. This is still very much me in a mode of, trying to just. I was very much caught up in this type of work. I loved doing it, and I wasn't worried about anything. On to part 3.